What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one wants to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, NVIDIA, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's going on with the economic calendar and some very important things that are worth mentioning. Also, what's going on with the news affecting Tesla this morning. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I talk about what's going on during the pre-markets, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks. This offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with Tesla. So looking at Tesla, we had a very, very interesting day thus far. We actually saw Tesla gap down during the pre-market, then it started to push up, similar to how we got these pushes to the upside for the last couple of days. But now Tesla's testing this yellow trend line as resistance. We have a new resistance zone that's kind of like came very close to this 237.5 area. And the question is Tesla going to do something very similar to the past where it kind of like pushed up on Thursday, then ended up dropping, pushed up on Friday and ended up dropping, and then today it's kind of like pushing up, but it's rejecting off this resistance? Or is Tesla going to attempt to break out? I'm going to give you guys an answer very, very soon. Now, before I do talk about the charts, let's just go over this data. At 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Consumer Inflationary Expectations Report coming out. Expect some volatility at that time. And then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3-month and the 6-month bill auctions, not to mention Bostic from the Fed giving a speech at 12:30. Now, during the hour of 11 a.m., that's when you should be expecting quite a bit of volatility with all this data coming out. It's not that insane. It's not like a CPI like I normally say. But I think that it's either going to be the bill auctions or the inflationary expectations report that's going to cause some volatility. One of those will be more impactful. And then besides that, there's not really anything else coming out that's that significant. For data affecting the markets, as a reminder, we have a bumpy start this far into the year. If you look at the fact that the S&P 500 dropped for the first week, so did the NASDAQ, down over 3%. Boeing shares dropped in the pre-market because the FAA grounded about 171 of the company's 737 MAX 9 planes. This has to do with aircraft inspections and other things like that. So some problems ended up emerging after some crashes. Luckily, no one got seriously injured, so it's very important to note. Congress is getting closer to voting a partial government shutdown. The House and the Senate on Sunday announced they reached a deal for funding for the fiscal 2024. Odyssey, the U.S.'s largest radio company, it basically plans to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And that's pretty much it for now, at least as time goes on, for the main headlines for the whole markets. For Tesla, I'm seeing some negative news, at least for now. This is still making a lot of headlines. I'm still seeing this news that Tesla has to fix 1.6 million cars with the over-the-air update. Hopefully, Tesla already priced this in. It's not affecting it as much. Hyundai and Kia take second place after Tesla in the US for EV sales. This actually has some statistics which are important. Tesla has the top US EV market share with about 57.4%. Hyundai and Kia make up 7.5%, ahead of GM's Chevy brand, which makes 5.9%. So that puts them in second place, but Tesla is still in first place. And looking at the numbers that are being compared, Tesla is still way ahead of its competitors in the US. So that's great for Tesla, if anything. There's also some news that came out that the Tesla short sellers felt a $12.2 billion blow in 2023. And I also believe that, and this is not financial advice, but we may see something similar in 2024, especially towards the second half of the year. I really believe that. I think that Tesla has a lot of potential coming. So, with all these shorts, you got to be very careful, right? I would not bet against Tesla and Elon Musk. They're doing very well overall. So anyways, now let's talk about the chart. What's so important about Tesla? What's going on with the chart? I want to break down something very important. So I have like two very important structures right here. We had this like falling wedge like structure that Tesla was developing as we approached their deliveries, right? And then on top of that, we attempted to break a little bit above it. Then we started to treat this blue trend line as support. This is the epitome of some important price action. Notice how this blue trend line, see the blue line right here? This was resistance, right? This was resistance. And what happened? This is a very important lesson in trading. We broke out of the resistance, and now we're treating this as support. So we did actually break a little bit above this, but now Tesla's kind of struggling where this new trend line has developed. We have a yellow trend line I drew here because this is now acting as resistance. So basically, in a nutshell, If Tesla could get above 240, it's going to favor the bulls a bit. If we close above 240 or 242, we could turn bullish. Okay. But if we're bearish, we're going to be watching 234. That's going to be a very important support for Tesla, because when I look at the chart on the daily time frame, 234.1 is where the 200 EMA is. It's a little hard to see, but see this red line in the bottom right here? This red line right here is the 200 EMA. We got to hold this. That's that 234 area. It's going to be critical support. If we close below that, we're going to turn very bearish. So far, Tesla's kind of like trying to, break this trend line. Right? It kind of gapped down. It's pushing just like how it did for the last few days. We're going to be watching to see if Tesla could break this trend line or not. If we do break it, it could get very close to 238. And if that breaks, we have 240 coming next. But if we fail to do so, expect a rejection and expect 236. If we lose 236, watch 234, that zone close to the daily 200 EMA. If we lose that, we're going to be looking for a drop all the way back down to 230, the much lower levels. That's going to be more bearish. So I just want to mention that, with Tesla, whether we do get a little pop or not, it had a tendency of kind of like pumping and dumping for the last couple of days. There's a very good chance it's going to remain range bound between 234 and 240 for the majority of the day. And we're going to be watching where it closes. That's going to be very important. Do we close above or below 234? And can we get above 240? My gut tells me it's going to pump a little bit. It might attempt to break this trend. I'm not too sure if it can actually break this. But overall, I just see it being range bound for now. And then I think the whole market's going to dictate it. So that's all I'm seeing for Tesla, at least for now. But I'm going to be paying close attention to 234. If we lose that, we're going to be just going to watch if we hold it or not, if anything. So we'll talk about it, whether it loses it or not later on. But for now, I'm just watching the range. For SPY, this is very stationary, very flat, at least for the time being. I do want to mention that the PPO on the 4-hour time frame is showing it wants to push a little bit. So it is trying to push just a little bit, but it's still very flat at the same time at this 468 area. If it does break 468 and keeps pushing, watch 469.33 and 470.5 as resistance levels. And then we have 471 as a key resistance. If we close above 470 or 471, we're going to favor the bulls a bit and we could turn bullish. If we're bearish, you want to see this thing basically lose 466 and also 465. If we lose these supports, especially 465, we're going to favor the bears big time, and there's going to be a big change. What do I think is going to happen? Well, I told you all that SPY is going to likely push up yesterday, and that's what's happening so far during the pre-market for the early hours of the day. But as time goes on, I mentioned that SPY is going to likely just remain range bound. And I think that's what's going to happen, if I'm going to be honest with you. It might push a little higher. It could get close to the 469s, but I think that SPY will reject and just continue to trade sideways within this range. I think it's going to be stuck between 470 and 465 for the majority of the day, going back and forth and back and forth. And we'll see which way it breaks for now. But as of right now, I just think it's going to remain range bound, and it could attempt to just be stuck within the range. It might push and then dump as time goes on, because this happened Thursday. It pushed and dumped. Friday it pushed and dumped. Might push up again and then dump back down and trade sideways, just like it did for the last couple of days. QQQ is in a critical position because we have this green trend line, and I mentioned this yesterday, guys. Basically, you want to be expecting a push and drop like move, at least from Thursday, that happened on Friday as well. The structure looks like this on the triple Q. So we basically have this channel, this green trend line as a key resistance as well. I just want to mention that we have this green trend line resistance. The QQQ is trying to break above this. It's actually attempting to break. I'm going to be watching 398 as resistance, then 399.5. It's going to be our next level, then 400. For support, make sure you watch 396.5, and if we lose that, there's 395 and then 393. In my opinion, the most likely possibility for the QQQ is it pushes, could get very close to 399 or so, but we're going to be watching to see if we get a rejection, because the last time at 399 rejected, hit 399 on Friday, rejected. Are we going to push a little higher, get close to 399, then reject? In my opinion, I think it's just going to remain range bound. We might just see a lot of price action between 395 and 400. Might push up into open and trade sideways as time goes on. Just be very careful, even though it is trying to push right now. So just be very careful. It might just remain range bound. It is attempting to push, but I just want to warn you to just, don't expect way too much just yet, and watch and see if we can break. For NVIDIA, I mentioned to you all that NVIDIA was looking bullish and it could push higher. It is getting very close to our target of 498 to 500. It's actually $1 away right now. But we also have this blue trend line as resistance. So basically, this blue trend line was support. So you guys can see how I was holding this blue trend line as support. This is now going to become resistance. and it's kind of stuck right now. I do want to note that there's a big shop zone, a lot of sideways price action for NVIDIA right here between 490 and about 500. You guys could see that. So I think that it could attempt to push higher and just trade sideways in this range for an extended period of time. And I think that there's not going to be a whole lot that happens to NVIDIA. NVIDIA might attempt to go higher towards 498 to 500 and rejects and just, go back and forth and back and forth. The closer we get to 500, the more resistance there's going to be. So I think it's just going to remain range bound, at least for now. Watch 495, 492, 490, and 488 as supports. Resistance, make sure you watch this blue trend line, not to mention 498 to 500. Might just go back and forth as time goes on. There's going to be tight resistance around this 500 range, so just be careful on NVIDIA, and also around this blue trend line. So we might just see sideways price action for now, and we'll be watching this range as well as time goes on. Unfortunately for Aapl, the same thing is going on. This is not super bullish or super bearish because I mentioned to you all Apple's going to likely get a push up, and this could help the market push up just a bit, but we'll see if this move lasts. But remember what happened for the last few days. We hit 183 and rejected. It looks like it might attempt to break this. So we'll see if this breaks or not, forming a double bottom. We have support at 180. If we close below 180 or lose it, 178 is going to be our next level at the 200 EMA. That's going to be bearish. If we break 183, watch 183.5. If we get above that or close above that, we have a gap to fill in the 184s. Apple's going to push for 185 plus and turn bullish if we get above 183.5. Right now, I think it's going to go back and forth, hitting supply and demand, and we'll see if this move could last because it is trying to push right now. It's looking a little bullish, but watch this 183 resistance. Can we break above this and close above it, or do we reject just like how we did on Thursday and Friday? So watch that carefully. Could remain range bound for some time, but let's see if Apple could try to break resistance. It's showing some strength, so we'll see how Apple does. If it does get that break, watch this gap that's going to get filled. We need to see it break above 183. If we hold above it, there's going to be potential for a push, and that's going to be bullish for the market. So watch that very carefully, guys. That's it for the video. Watch all your price targets, all your levels, and do what you have to do. I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you, and peace out.